Hey, what's up guys? This video is for the spring midterm review for the year 2022 and it is for Algebra 1. I'm going to do a couple of videos. So this is the first video. This is part 1 and tomorrow I'll do part 2 so you guys can watch that as well. So let's go ahead and start with question number 1. So question number 1 says solve the system of equations, meaning that you have two equations. We have two different variables, the x and the y. And the goal is to find the values for those two variables, the x and the y. There are two different methods you guys can use to solve a system of equations. There are actually three, but two of them is when you guys do the actual work on paper. So one of them is substitution method. The second is elimination method. I'll tell you guys which one to use. When you have a variable by itself, just like this one, y is by itself, go ahead and use the substitution method. So the steps that I show you guys in my class, step number 1, you guys need that equation with the variable by itself. So I'm going to write it down, y equals 2x plus 6. So that is the top equation of the system. Second step, you guys are going to use the other equation. So right now I'm looking at the bottom equation and I'm going to substitute the top equation to the bottom. So this is what I'm saying. This is the bottom equation. I didn't change anything for the numbers or the signs, but I'm going to take all of this y value in step number 1, y equals all of that, and you're going to substitute into the y in the second step. So you guys bring down the 2x, there's the minus, I'm going to use parentheses so I can substitute, and there's the equal to. So let's go ahead and put in, substitute, plug in, whatever you guys want to say. But you need to substitute 2x plus 6 inside of the parentheses. You guys need to solve for x. Notice we have that variable x inside the parentheses and outside. So we just need to solve. So the negative outside of the parentheses, you're going to have to distribute. You multiply by what's inside of the parentheses. So we're going to get 2x minus 6 equals 2. Now you guys are going to combine like terms. 2x minus 2x cancels, right? So you guys don't have an x anymore. What do we have left? We have the negative 6 equals a 2. Now when this happens, when the variables cancel, either the x or the y, you don't have any more variables. Since we don't have x, we cannot solve for y. You have to look at the equation or the statement that you guys have here. So now right now we have a negative 6 equals 2. That's false. Negative 6 is not equal to 2. They're not the same number. So when it's false, we say no solution. We do not have an answer. We do not have a solution. You guys will not find the x value and the y value. Now, just a really quick note for you guys. If the statement is true, let's say that you guys have the same numbers, the variables cancel, but you guys have the same numbers, that will be many solutions. And actually, let me just do a little bubble over here, just to give you guys an example. Let's say we get 3 equals 3, so no more variables. Well, since the numbers are the same, they're equal, you say many solutions. Or you can say infinitely many solutions, but we do have many of them. Question number 2, it says which graph represents a system of equations with infinite solutions? And that's like saying infinitely many solutions. So when you guys look at the graphs, the one that has infinitely many solutions is when the two lines, the two graphs, the two functions are the same line. So one line is on top of the other one. So I'm looking at the third graph right here. This one, it looks like one line, but it has one line on the bottom and one line on top of it. So you guys have two lines that represents the same graph. So this one is infinite solutions or infinitely many solutions. I'm going to write it down on the bottom so you guys know this is infinite when they're the same line. Solutions. I'm going to review with you the other ones as well. Solutions. So let's look at the parallel lines. When the two graphs, the two lines do not intersect, that one you do not have solutions. So we say no solution. So why do we say that? Because the solution of a system is where the two lines intersect, where they actually cross. And if you look at the first graph, this, I'm going to highlight it right there. I'm going to put a box. That point of intersection is a solution. So the first graph on the left side, this is only one solution because it only crosses one time. So one solution, one time, no solutions, they do not intersect. And infinite solutions is when the two lines are the same, the exact same line. Number 3, it says solve the system of equations. And notice that the two equations, they are actually aligned with the same variables, the x and x's, the y's and the y's. And you guys have on the other side the constants and the constants. When you guys have this set up just like this, x with the x's, y with the y's, and the constant with the constants, you guys can use the elimination method. That's one of the methods to solve a system of equations. You guys are going to eliminate. Now remember, to eliminate one of the variables, you must have the same number and opposite sign. Same number and opposite sign. So I'm looking at the x's right here. The x's have the same number. This is 2 and 2. And they do have opposite signs. The top 2 is positive. It doesn't have a sign, so it is a positive. And the bottom is negative. So opposite signs and the same number. So I'm going to cancel. I'm going to cancel the x. I'm going to put a line under the system, and we're going to add the two equations vertically, meaning from top to bottom. So you guys will cancel the x's. Those are gone. For the y's, you guys are going to combine. They are like terms. Be careful with the signs. They have the same sign. So you guys are going to add the numbers and keep the sign. So negative 9y equals, and on the other side, 6 minus 24. That's going to be negative 18. Then you guys are going to divide. You solve for the y. The y didn't cancel. We do have a y there. So this turns into positive 1. We don't need that 1. There's a y equals, and the other side we get a positive 2. Negative 18 divided by negative 9 is positive 2. That's only one of the variables. We need to find the x value. So the next step, you guys are going to substitute into one of the equations. Doesn't matter which one, but you guys will substitute. I'm going to choose the top. I don't like the bottom because there's a negative 24. I always try to avoid negatives, and 24 is pretty big. So the top, I know we have a negative 6, but the numbers are kind of small. So I'm going to choose that equation, 2x minus 6y equals 6, and I'm going to substitute the y value into the equation. So we have a 2x minus 6 times the 2 equals 6. And you guys solve. We have 2x multiply negative 6 times 2. That's going to be negative 12 equals 6. Add 12 to both sides. You guys are solving for x. So 2x equals 18. Divide by 2. And the x value is 9. 18 divided by 2 is 9. When you guys write your solution, we do have one solution because this is 1 point. My solution has to be in parentheses. It's an order pair. You guys have a point. Remember, the x is always first, alphabetical order. So you put the 9, and then the y value is next. So 9 comma 2 will be your answer. The order does matter, so make sure you guys check that the x is first and then the y. Number 4, it says solve the system of equations again. Now what I notice is, well, we do have the x and the y's on the same side. We do not have a y by itself or an x by itself. And I notice that the y's, they have the same number. They have a coefficient of 1. And guess what? They have different signs. So I'm thinking we can use the elimination method to solve. Now the bad thing is the x's are not aligned. The y's are not aligned. The constants, they are on the same side, but we need the x's and the y's on the same side. So I'm going to rewrite this equation, or system, I should say system, and I'm going to put the x's together and the y's together so I can actually eliminate the y's. So I'm going to do it right over here. 3x. I'm not changing anything for the first one because remember, x is always first, x and then y. But the bottom equation, I'm going to switch. Do not change the signs. Just switch the x and the y. So the 4x goes first, the positive y goes next, and you guys have the 23 on the other side. Look at the system now. The x's are on the same, they're aligned. The y's are aligned, and the constants are also aligned. So now we can eliminate the y's. They have the same number, opposite signs. So we're using the elimination method. So the y's cancel. 3x plus 4x, that'll be 7x equals 12 plus 23. That's going to be 35. You guys divide by 7, and we get x equals 5. Okay, so that's 1. 35 divided by 7 is 5. Now we need the y. So I'm going to substitute into one equation. I like the top. Like I said, I like to avoid big numbers. So I'm looking at 23, and I'm saying, no, I don't want to use 23. So I'm going to use the top equation. So we have the 3x minus the y equals the 12. You guys substitute 5 into the x. So 5 times, oops, no, not 5. Let me go back. 3. I put a 5, but it's a 3 times 5. You guys substitute minus the y equals 12. So we get 15 minus y. And you guys keep going. Subtract 15 from both sides. This is solving a regular equation. Negative y equals negative 3. 12 minus 15 is negative 3. We have to get rid of that negative. So I'm going to divide by a negative 1. And the y value is going to equal negative 3 divided by negative 1 is positive 3. And remember, my solution has to be a point. It has to be in parentheses. X is first, so the 5, and then the y value, which is 3. So my answer, my solution, is 5, 3. That's an order pair. So number 5, solve the system of equations again. I noticed the x's are aligned, the y's are aligned, the constants are aligned. So I can use the elimination method. The bad thing is, well, the x's don't have the same number. The y's, they do have the same number, but they do not have opposite signs. So I'm going to go and cancel the y's because they already have the same number, but I just need to change one of the signs to a negative so they can have opposite signs. To do that, you guys need to multiply one equation by a negative 1, and that's going to change the sign to the negative for the y values. So you can multiply the bottom by a negative 1 or the top by negative 1. Doesn't matter which one you guys multiply. I'm going to choose the bottom. Okay, doesn't matter. You just choose one, and I'm going to multiply everything. Notice I'm using parentheses. Everything I'm going to multiply by negative 1. That's going to change the signs for the y's, and you guys will be able to cancel the y's. So I'm going to put an arrow over here. Just follow the arrow. I'm going to do the work on the right side. Top equation stays the same. You do not change anything. But the bottom, you guys are going to multiply by a negative. So negative 1 times negative 2x, that's positive 2x. The negative 1 times a positive 2y will be a negative 2y. And the other side, a negative 1 times a negative 14, that's a positive 14. Now, you guys will cancel the y's. Gone. For the x's, 5x plus 2x, that's 7x. The constants, 7 plus 14 will be 21. Divide by 7. So the x value will be 3. Okay, so you guys have the x. Now we need to substitute into one equation and find the y. So I'm going to do it here. Substitute. I like the top equation. 5x plus 2y equals 7. And I'm going to substitute. Remember, x equals 3. So you guys substitute the 3 into the x. So 5 times 3 plus 2y equals 7. And so for y. So 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 2y equals 7. You guys subtract 15. So 2y equals negative 8. 7 minus 15 is negative 8. Divide by 2. So y equals negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So now you guys write your solution. And remember, it has to be in parentheses. So x is first and then the y value. So my solution is negative 3 comma negative 4. Number 6, it says simplify. So you guys have an expression, not a system. It is an expression, 3m to the 0 power p squared. So this is going to the properties of exponents. So let's go ahead and look at the property of exponent of 0. M to the 0 power. This variable has an exponent of 0. Anything to the 0 power except 0, but any number other than 0 or variable with an exponent of 0 turns into 1. Okay? The 3, it has an invisible 1 exponent, but you guys are multiplying by the 1. So I'm going to write it down again. 3 times the 1, and we still have the p squared. You guys multiply the 3 and the 1, that's 3, and you guys have the p squared. That's it. You guys cannot do anything else. So the answer is 3p squared. Number 7, you guys are dividing. You have a fraction. Notice we have the same variables on the top and the bottom, and also we have coefficients here. So with fractions, you guys will start with the coefficients and try to reduce if you can. So I'm looking at the 32 over 8. So let me just put the division line over here. 32 over 8 reduces to 4 over 1. 8 goes into 32 4 times, and 8 goes into 8 1 time. Then you guys are going to look at the same variables. Notice the bases, the variables, we have an x on the top and the x on the bottom. So when you guys are dividing, you are going to subtract the exponents, and you guys keep the base, the same variable. But I give you guys a trick in class. You look at the highest exponent, and that's where you keep your base when you have a fraction. So the highest exponent of the x's is on the top. So you guys keep the x on the top, and now you guys are going to subtract biggest exponent minus the smallest one. Regular subtraction, 5 minus 2 will be, 5 minus 3 will be 2. So that's on the top, x squared. Then you guys are going to look at the y's. So for the y's, we have a y to the 7th on the top, and we have a y on the bottom. Remember, the 1 on the bottom has an exponent of 1, and the biggest exponent is on the top of the fraction. So you guys keep the y on the top and subtract 7 minus 1 is 6. Hey, you know what? I don't have anything else on the bottom. We don't need a 1 on the bottom of the fraction. So my answer will be 4x squared y to the 6th power. Number 8, again, you guys have a fraction. You want to simplify, but notice we have negative exponents. So the negative exponents, we have to make them positive. So we're going to have to use the properties of exponents. Anything that has a negative exponent, you're going to have to move it to the other side of the fraction. So I'm looking at the bottom, x to the negative 7 exponent. That one, I'm going to move it to the opposite side. So I'm going to take it to the top. And you also take the y to the negative 5th power to the top. The ones on the top, x to the 4th, y to the 8th, they're not negatives. So you keep them on the top, but you guys are going to take these ones to the top as well. So I'm going to put my fraction line here. Notice I'm going to take the x to the 7th power. The exponent becomes positive. That's what happens when you move it to the other side of the fraction. I do have an x to the 4th power, and they are multiplying because they're side by side. So you will multiply x to the 7th times x to the 4th. And then I'm going to take the y to the 5th power. The exponent becomes positive, and I am multiplying the x and the y. And I'm going to multiply by y to the 8th power. So everything on the bottom went to the top. Mathematically, when everything goes to the top, there's a 1 on the bottom, but we don't need it. We don't need that. But let's go ahead and look at the top of the fraction. When you guys have bases side by side and they're multiplying, the property of exponents, you keep the base and you add the exponents. So I'm going to have x, keep the base, and you add 7 plus 4 is 11. And the y's, you keep the base and you add 5 plus 8, 13. I don't need that 1 on the bottom. So my answer is x to the 11th, y to the 13th power. So number 9, you don't have a fraction, but we do have a parenthesis with a exponent outside of the parentheses. Inside, we have an expression, and we do have a negative exponent, so we have to be careful with that negative. But let's go ahead and understand the exponents. The 2, it has an exponent of 1. There's an invisible 1 exponent. The x has an exponent of 4. The y has the exponent negative 3. And the z has an exponent of 1. So you guys are going to take the 4 outside, the exponent of 4, and you're going to multiply to the exponents inside of the parentheses. Keep the same base. So I'm going to keep the 2. I'm going to multiply 4 times 1 is 4. I'm going to keep the x. I'm going to multiply 4 times 4. That's 16. I'm going to keep the y. And I'm going to multiply 4 times negative 3. That's negative 12. I'm going to keep the z. And I'm going to multiply 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, the bases are not the same, but we do have a negative exponent right here. So what that means, I'm going to have to take this to the bottom of the fraction. But we don't have a fraction right now. So guess what? I'm just going to make a fraction. There's a 1 on the bottom. Yeah, so you guys will take this to the bottom. So let's go ahead and rewrite everything again. So you guys have the fraction line. 2, you can also simplify this one. Let's go ahead and do that right now. 2 to the 4th power. You multiply the base. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So you multiply the base by itself 4 times. That's going to be 16. So 2 to the 4th power is 16. X to the 16. Z to the 4th power. So everything stays the same except the y. The y is going to go to the bottom. Y to the 12th power. Exponent becomes positive. And one more time, I don't need that 1. You can make it an invisible. Next to the y, you can make it invisible 1. So my answer will be this expression right there. Number 10, you guys are multiplying. It says simplify, but I know I have to multiply because there's nothing in between the parentheses. So even though it doesn't say multiplication, I know I have to multiply because you have parentheses, nothing in between. So you guys are multiplying 3c to the 5th times 7c to the 2nd power. You guys are going to multiply the coefficients, 3 times 7. And you guys are going to multiply the bases, keep the base, and you guys are going to add the exponents. 5 plus 2. That's what you do when you guys multiply the same bases. So 3 times 7 is 21. And c to the 7th power. 5 plus 2 is 7. That's the answer. Number 11 is more about checking your understanding. It says when you guys multiply, let me circle that word. You guys are multiplying these two expressions, and they're monomials because they're one term. M to the 4th times m to the 2nd. You will blank the exponents. So when you're multiplying, you guys are going to add. Exactly. That's it. You guys add the exponents. Keep the base, but you guys add the exponents. So I'm going to stop here for the first video for the midterm review. I'm going to make another one, so make sure you guys check that one out. Make sure you guys practice for the midterm. Get prepared. And if you guys like my videos, you guys can click that like button. And you can also subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys later.